Good evening. Welcome to Around the World with Dee and Friends. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by Denarde English, and he's going to be sharing Tuesday night's primary election results with us. Harsh Med should also be joining, and right now I'm waiting for them to join in. And while I'm waiting, I am going to be sharing the show. So that's what I'm doing right now, sharing the show. Okay. Just trying to get the word out as quick as possible that we're live. Okay, here's Denarde. Hello, Denarde. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I don't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I think you have your mic off. Hmm.
Hello?
Okay, now I hear you. Okay, okay, that sounds good. I'm sharing the show right now, trying to let people know we're live.
All right. Sorry, I'm sorry I was late.
Well, that's okay. People have lives. They've got other things they've got to do. This is not the only part of your life.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. It's a crazy world we live in
definitely.
every day. So what do you think about that? I don't know. It just seems like it's a false flag type of thing. With them telling Trump that Iran was going to attack the Air Force One.
Honestly, I don't know because given the fact that we basically slaughter a lot of Iranians, and killed their leaders and many of their leaders and their children as well. Yeah, they're not gonna be very happy about it. Be happy about it, considering the and many people are basically out for one Trump's head.
I
And
understand that part, but
but to basically leave his own staff in Air Force One and as sitting ducks, and basically leave them as sitting ducks. Yeah, that was like wow. Even cowards would even cowards wouldn't go that far. Hmm?
right, because they were saying that it was Israel, and they have him and Netanyahu like the bros. That Netanyahu, that Israel warned about what was going to take place, that they had information from Iran. That's what got me. That put a bad taste in my mouth because I don't really think that Netanyahu would care one bit if Trump was replaced. If others in the administration, but, Trump has said, well, neither does I know that the vice president would take over, and he doesn't want to. He wants out of Iran. He wants to stop it all. But Trump is saying that as well. And but just thinking about the whole thing, it just if it was something that was really true, and like they getting Trump out, don't you think the U.S. would have done something about everybody else? They would have found something for everybody else to fly back on and to have that plane empty. You know,
Yeah,
the whole thing doesn't make sense.
nothing about this makes sense.
And I'm thinking that's why she resigned, probably a spokesperson.
Yeah, yeah, Caroline Levitt.
Yeah, because she's probably thinking that she was left a sitting duck. that he took all these other people and he didn't care about her, and she has her children and her family. He didn't give a crap. I mean, Marco Rubio would have gotten the word about it. He's a Secretary of State, and he left himself to die.
It just shows that move that we saw from Trump basically escaping and basically leaving his staff to basically as potential targets.
Right.
It just shows that he sees no. It's just he kind of just revealed how much he values his entire administration, because he basically sees them as nothing more of a cannon fodder.
Yeah. That's it. He doesn't care about them at all. She's young, Carolyn Levitt. She's in her late 20s. So, she's young. So I'm sure she was shook by this. But Marco Rubio, he doesn't seem to give a shit.
Of course he's not. He's a neocon. He cares more about wars than he cares more about wars.
Right, but he would have been the ones if it was true. He would have been one of the people taken down. Because he was on the plane.
I mean, he's a bootlegger. Like, yeah. He's the type of person. Just like JD Vance. He realized that the only way for him to, potentially run for a second failed presidential attempt is to be on Trump's good side.
Yeah. And then Trump didn't even choose him to go in the little cart with him. It just doesn't make sense, the whole thing, because you would have had everybody out. And Marco Rubio wouldn't have sacrificed himself because he's a Secretary of State. So he would have had information about it.
It's no secret that this entire administration is full of whack job weirdos and incompetent baboons.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Marco Rubio is not just a neocon. He's a professional. He's basically an idiot. Because given the fact that let's be clear, he's a well-known neocon who has been eyeing a war with Cuba and Venezuela for decades. Mm-hmm. And not to mention the fact that he like I said, he's basically the type of person who will say and do anything in order to get ahead. And he sees Trump as basically the key to winning, to rising up to a new potential.
Yes, he does. He's got a base, a fan base that's behind him. I've seen them, their postings. Rubio 2028. Rubio, he's the best. He's going to be the next president, and all that. Oh yeah, Wayne says, Ian Omar, good win in Minnesota. And something white's here. Oh, Evelina's here. Hello, Evelina. And she says hello, Dee and Denarde. And something white is here. It's good to see you. Yeah, last night's debacle. I was in the middle of the show, and the next thing you know, the show ended. The show just ended. I had myself over onto X, and I was, talking about different events in the West Bank, and then I came over to see what was going on in the studio here, see if there was any comments, and I saw that the show was over. I was like, "What?"
Wow!
I had to put it up again, but you had to start from fresh, so it was like scratch, whatever. So it was crazy. Usually like that there's a power outage, that it just, the show's still there, but you just have to will continue on once you get the power up. But this time it was just totally ended. I was talking about the West Bank yesterday, and we talked about the family, Palestinian Americans, that their house has been surrounded, and they've had difficulties because you got the thugs, I call them, surrounding their house, and the of course the military there, they just go along with the whole thing. And then Israel tells it in a story, the Times of Israel says, well, this is not standard procedure. I'd have to look into the soldiers who aren't protecting, the people there, and who are, standing with the settlers and stuff like that. And I'm like, that is such a lie. This has been going on forever.
Yeah.
We've been watching it, and all of a sudden you're acting like blind to the fact that the IDF is involved with the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we talked a lot about the West Bank thing yesterday, and some things with Gaza as well. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing. Okay, I guess if you want to, start, you can. Let me see. I've got some people here.
Yeah. So this I want to talk. This is going to be very short. We're gonna be talking about the primary that happened today. Happened yesterday. Sorry. It was actually it's actually pretty surprising. Because throughout this midterm year, we've seen a lot of twists and turns. We got nominees dropping out and then replaced. We got and we're nominee and a nominee dying, end up dying, and then replaced by a relative. There's a lot of twists and turns. So we had a bunch of different elections placed in tonight, and a lot of people were focused on certain races, such as races in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and South Carolina. And there's been a lot of unorthodox candidates, such as Mike Lindell, who was backed by Trump, who was backed by Trump. He was running for governor of Minnesota in the Republican primary, and he lost. And I'm not talking about I'm not saying it was a very close race, very close. He lost by 20 points, by over 10 points against Lisa DeMuth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, another Trump back candidate ended up losing the primary, which is we're starting to see, and we're starting to see how much influence Trump is starting to have. And in South Carolina, for the special Republican primary for the Senate, Darlene Graham, the senator, the incumbent senator who replaces her brother Lindsey Graham, and Congressman Ralph Northam has actually made it to the going to a runoff election. And advanced to a runoff election.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and many people are looking at these two primaries and starting to weigh in, like, how much influence Trump is kind of really have, because from what we saw, from the Michigan House race, Republican primary race we saw, and what happened in Tennessee, it seems like many people are starting to see, like, yeah, Trump's involvement, endorsement weight doesn't really have much weight than it used to.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. I've noticed that.
Yeah, and even some South Carolina voters who were voting in the primary, basically said that I like Trump, but I'm not going to support a candidate so just because he endorsed him, just because he endorsed him. So we're starting to see that kind of scenario.
Yeah, because they've seen where Trump stands on stuff.
Yeah.
And the people that are around Trump, they're all kissing his you know what. And people are saying we want somebody that's going to represent our state. And it's just, this is all for, they don't see somebody that's going to be dedicated to their state when it comes to Trump supporters. They're all there for Trump and MAGA and all that nonsense. And a lot of people are running away from that.
Yeah. And unfortunately for people, for those who are hoping to no longer hear about Graham, unfortunately that's never going to happen, because because his sister, who every time I listen to her sounds just like him. And has now basically is now advanced to the runoff, and is probably going to get a full term. So yeah, we got nepo siblings and nepo babies going on.
That's creepy.
Now, if you ask her about criticism towards her because she was basically just handed the seat, well, she says she doesn't see it that way. She feels like she was handed the seat, even though she was literally handed the seat, even though she was literally she claims she doesn't feel like it. She was handed the seat was handed to her, even though that's literally what happened.
That's what happened. She didn't have to run around the neighborhood telling everybody who she was and getting on the ballot and the whole runaround.
Yeah, the only reason she even made it to the Senate was because Trump stepped in and say, hey, governor, put his sister that I just figured out that he has into the Senate. And the governor said, okay, let's do it. And that's literally what happened. And this is why I have a problem with nepo babies and running and always taking after politicians and stepping in. If these people be treating the political offices like it's a family job.
Yeah, that was Cuomo in New York, thinking because of his father, but he's nothing like his father, and he just thought he was just going to get into the mayor's seat. People have seen Cuomo. People have had enough of him.
Yeah. I'm still shocked with the fact that 40% of New Yorkers were even considering entertaining the idea of replacing a disgraced former mayor, at the time, a soon-to-be disgraced former mayor, with a disgraced former governor.
Yeah. It's maddening. It really is. And we never forget how Cuomo was, and especially, with COVID, with all those people that were in the nursing homes. What he did, all the lives that were lost. It was disgusting.
Yeah, and she tries to come off like every time you see a clip of her and asking her she didn't asked about the fact that she was handed the seat to her. That's handed the seat because she happens to be Lindsey Graham's sister. She kind of brushed it off, saying that I don't see, and she basically said that she brushed off, said that she doesn't feel like if she was handed the seat to her, and she does acknowledge that she has to earn voters. But let's be honest, the only reason she's gained this far is because of the fact that Trump endorsed her. But we're gonna have to see if that endorsement actually holds any weight. But yeah, lady, you were handed the seat. Just own it. Just own it. Why do they have to be this, to play this disingenuous game? Mm-hmm. And she goes on to say that she wasn't handed the seat, and she even doubles down on the disingenuity and says something like, "Oh, I'm not trying to be a politician." Mm-hmm. Lady, you are a literal politician. You are by definition a politician. why can't why can't they just own it? And I
Yeah.
don't understand. I never thought that. I thought Darlene was to be perfectly clear. I was actually hoping that Darlene was gonna be less insufferable than her brother. But so far she's clear. The apples seems to have not fall far from the tree.
No. And I haven't heard her speak, but like you said, she sounds just like her brother.
Yeah, and that's and that's she's. I'll say that. I'll say that she's not as insufferable as her brother. But like I said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well,
Right.
we'll put it that way. But on the subject of political dynasties, well, guess what? Michael Alfonso, the son-in-law of current Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, won his primary in Wisconsin's 7th congressional district.
Hmm.
So the son-in-law of a former reality television show star turned politician is now able to run and win. I mean, so far, so much of living
A
so much for living
democracy.
in a meritocracy.
Mm.
Like, if you have money and notoriety, then that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to say and then contradict myself completely because not all not well not always but because like I said, Mike Lindell, the Trump endorsed My Pillow guy lost the Republican primary, and for those who don't know, like I said, he was running for the Minnesota gubernatorial primary in Minnesota, and I'm really thankful that he lost because this man has basically been how should I describe this? Experiencing some kind of prolonged maniac episode since Trump's lost in 2020. And I'm so glad that the Republican, who I'm assuming is less insane, advanced because I feel like when it comes to Republican sincerity, he's a peak Republican he is peak Republican insanity.
Yeah. And then he says that it was rigged. The Republican primary was rigged against him, he said.
Yeah, and so far, uh, but on and so far from what we hear, from what we're hearing now, Mike Lindell has basically refused to concede refused to concede the race, and also on the subject of on the other on sticking to the subject of crazy people, former NBA player turned politician Royce White, who is who once pretended to be to be trans because he wants to prove that in the WNBA to send a message about how trans athletes are bad even though um, there are none there's none in the WNBA. I'm not even kidding. That's literally what he did. Well, he got his cheeks clapped in the Republican in the GOP primary for the U.S. Senate in the state of Minnesota. Came in third, actually, in a distant third, actually. So it's nice to see these clowns lose their elections. I guess to maybe cancel out the clowns that did win their elections. But let's get but but we'll take what we get. But on to the Democratic primaries that took place. It, and there's been a lot of big wins for progressives. Like for example, when it comes to Minnesota's 2nd congressional district, then Matt Littles won his primary in a landslide, which is a really important because this is an individual who is a full Bernie Sanders style progressive. He supports Medicare for all. He calls what happened in Gaza a genocide. Was hap we called it he called what a there's a he called a there's a called what's happening in Palestine a genocide, and he wants to condition aid to Israel, and he doesn't take APAC. He doesn't take any APAC money.
Good.
And if you look at his platform, he checks all the boxes. Really big, really big on gaining money out of politics. Boasts about how he doesn't take any corporate money. Opposes data centers. Great, just a great addition, a new member of Congress. And he should win the general election. Now this news gets even better because he is taking over Angie Craig, the congresswoman, the congresswoman who currently occupies that seat. And for those who don't know, Angie Craig is a corporate Democrat who's also taking money from AIPAC, and she actually vacated that seat, the seat that Matt Little just won, because she wanted to run for the U.S. Senate. And now we can safe to say that after the primary show that she lost to progressive the candidate and been Peggy Flanagan, who is amazing. For those who don't know, Peggy Flanagan is the current lieutenant governor of Minnesota. And if elected, she will be the first Indigenous woman to be elected in the Senate in U.S. history.
So that's good.
Yeah, and that's huge. Huge, considering the fact in New Mexico, Deb Haaland, the former Interior Secretary and former Congressman, won her primary, if she gets elected in New Mexico, she will be not only the first Indigenous woman to win the governor's seat in New Mexico, she'll be the first Indigenous woman to be governor in U.S. history.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
And it's about time, though.
Exactly. And so Penny Flanagan, she was endorsed by AOC and Bernie Sanders. She supports Medicare for all. She wants to condition aid to Israel. She, along with Abdul El-Sayed, and would be phenomenal additions to the Senate.
Oh, definitely.
And she blew and Peggy Flanagan blew Angie Craig out. Despite all the money that was spent, despite all the corporate money and the AIPAC money that was and pro-Israel money that was basically paid, was basically spent against her, and the results were huge. And it's huge from what we learned from the results. Penny Flanagan was able to get 59% of the vote, while Angie Craig only got 39% of the vote. So basically a 20-point gap.
Wow.
So it's really, really encouraging news. And I think we've already seen enough thus far tonight to conclude that the progressive momentum, the socialist momentum, a socialist adjacent momentum, is unquestionably continuing. And all this talk of just only focused on one simple state, on one state like New York. Like, no, it's spreading all across. We're seeing it all over from places like in Michigan, Colorado, and now in Minnesota.
Well, it's great. People have really seen with the Trump administration. They really see. It's like people have woken up.
Exactly. And I'm really happy that she won. Because keep in mind, and Peggy, back to Peggy Flanagan, she was actually on the headlines back in 2024 because, for those who don't know, for those who forgot, Tim Walz is the current governor, and he was running as Kamala Harris's running mate in 2024. And if there was a scenario that Kamala Harris won the election, then Tim Walz would have to resign, and Peggy Flanagan would be stepping in as the governor of Minnesota, which would have made her the first woman to be governor, the governor in first Native American woman to be governor in American history. And so, but luckily we can. But luckily she can. She hasn't. She's going to be a first.
Hmm.
The first in a different an office.
Right.
And for those who don't, for those who aren't aware, she's a citizen of the White Earth Nation.
Okay.
And she started her career as a organizer for the urban Native American community, and in 2004 Finnegan was elected and served in the Minneapolis Public School Board from 2005 to 2009, and she served in the Minnesota House representing sections of Minnesota's Minneapolis's western inner ring suburbs. So she knows full well what's going on in Minnesota and what Minnesota wants.
Hmm.
And I think she'll be phenomenal. And I'm cautiously optimistic given the fact that the last time we elected the lieutenant governor got elected in the U.S. Senate, he turned out to be an Israel loving blob.
Yeah, people are fed up, and people are influenced too because people are furious. People have seen Gaza, what's been going on with Gaza, and seeing the West Bank, East Jerusalem. People are more aware of the region now where they weren't before. So people were furious at the Democrats, and now we have Trump. So here now we want to, people want to get the party to start representing people, getting them out of that whole neocon, that centrist. They want candidates that are going to really represent human life and people.
Exactly. I find this race really interesting because because usually the corporate Democrats, many corporate Democrats like Debbie Stabenow, or Lisa Slotkin, Jackie Rosen, and Chris Coons. They all and Hakeem Jeffries and people like Hakeem Jeffries and others. They've all been back in Richie Torres. They've all been backing Angie Craig. However, there's in the progressive side people like Al Franken, Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, like I said, Bernie Sanders, even Tina Smith, the outgoing senator who was actually endorsed Penny Flanagan, and Tina Smith has basically been interesting because even though she's, I don't know, seen more on the liberal establishment kind of side and his establishment kind of side, she does a center left side. She did actually endorse Abdul El Sayed during the primary in Michigan, which was a pretty big shock.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually never expected her to support Abdul.
Mm-hmm.
I guess some senators can turn a new leaf when their time in the Senate is almost up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the country is such a mess.
Yeah, and people are waking up.
Right.
Now, but I'm not going to say. I'll say this. I'm not going to say that it was a huge, big night for progressives because we were as much as us were hoping. There was one. I would say there was one big gut punch. Much of us, for all of us, there was a lot of gun punches that happened. Like because like people like Cori Bush, a real fighter, didn't win. I was really unhappy about that. But I'm of course talking about the Wisconsin gubernatorial Democratic primary, and featuring Francesca Hong, a Democratic socialist, and she was running against David Crowley, who is an established pro-corporate Democrat. And this guy is a clown. This is an individual who said said not really saying, well, was not really saying he wants a moratorium on data centers. He's saying that he has a nuanced position on data centers, and I think we both know. I think we all know what that means.
You're right. He's going to go wherever it flows. He's for it, but he doesn't want to say it.
Yeah, and with the Wisconsin primary, it was very very close, and I mean extremely close, because we it's been confirmed David Crowley did win the primary by razor thin margin. He won he only won 39.8% of the vote, while Francesca Hung only got 39.3%.
Because it looked like she was going to win before that.
Yeah, and a lot of polls shows to him that shows her beating, that shows her her winning in a landslide.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this guy, David Crowley, dropped out of the race and then came back again.
That makes no sense.
And he's also and then about David Crowley, he's also talking about how Democrats don't have a monopoly on good ideas. We need and that we need to get input from independents and Republicans too. And if you're running in a Democratic primary and you say this, I just feel like that is disqualifying, because what ideas do Republicans have? Do you agree with? Because I don't think they have a single idea that they have that I would find even moderately reasonable. So this is an individual who should not be doing well in the Democratic primary, and he was was projectedly supposed to lose in a landslide. And like I said, like you mentioned, the polls showed that Francesca Hung was very ahead of him by 20 plus points, but the results were very disappointing. And it showed a different story. So basically, he narrowly won. But I would say this: even though he narrowly won, it's still impressive that a Democratic socialist came that close into winning the primary, and that extremely close.
I get suspicious of something like that, and I think there should be more of a recount, and because I know with Debbie Wasserman Schultz in Florida, the supervisor of elections tilts it, and she's done that every time, and they won't show anything to anybody. And we've seen videos online when they showed boxes being brought in, boxes taken out or whatever. So there's always been a lot of suspicion around Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Exactly.
So I don't know if this is the same thing in Wisconsin, since this person was so much ahead.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a reason why why. But before that, we need to talk. We need to talk about the fact that there was a lot of hyper focus on this race. Unlike on the other races throughout the country, I think that the establishment really feared that since she was polling well, she was a foregone conclusion. So they did their best to drive down support for her, and engage in what's effectively basically a gaslighting campaign about her electability. And if you look at Tom Tiffany, the GOP nominee, I mean, the guy has zero charisma,
right?
And his only thing he's good at was the only thing about him was that he refused to accept the result of the 2020 election, and he's backed by Donald Trump. That's basically it. So she would have destroyed him in debates in the general election. So
Right.
I think that she is indeed electable. The problem is that I think that there was enough doubts planted in the minds of voters about her to where they thought, okay, do I really want to risk it with this individual who is as crazy as the pundits are telling me? And I think that's really disappointing because I think she could have won. She could win and could be the governor of Wisconsin
Right.
if she was made if she made it to the primary. Now,
Hmm.
there's a couple of things that I think may have contributed to her losses. One is that Wisconsin is an open primary state, so it's possible. So it's plausible that some Republicans may have crossed over to support David Crowley.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Crowley, but and the corporate Democrat who would be weaker, who would no doubt be weaker in a general election. And I mean that we saw a little bit of evidence that this was happening in Michigan um, with um, with Mike Rogers. His voters who are crossing over to support Haley Stevens, making it closer closer than it otherwise would have been.
Hmm.
There was a lot there's not a lot of evidence to validate this. It's just a theory, mostly conjectured, but just one possible explanation. On top of that, there was not a lot of institutional support for Francesca Hong, meaning Bernie Sanders, ANC, they just didn't endorse her. I and I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't come out and support her. I don't I don't know what to say. I don't know that really sunk that caused her campaign to sunk because it was very close in a duel, and it was actually, like I said, it was a because Bernie Sanders and AOC supported a duel, and it was a very close race
Right.
despite having the endorsement of AOC and Bernie Sanders. But
Hmm.
it is possible that if they didn't endorse him and stump for him, maybe he wouldn't have been able to get across the finish line.
Hmm.
So they had given him an extra boost and did a couple of campaigns with him. And if they had done the same thing for Francesca, I mean, maybe that would have helped. Um, I actually don't know, but it's really hard to say for sure, at this early stage. Now, another thing that hurt her was the bizarre manufacture scandal around her old tweets, naming the one where with about her wanting to cancel Thanksgiving, and once called it a racist holiday, and she's absolutely correct about it being a racist holiday, and saying that she wants to cancel it.
Hmm.
Um, wants to cancel it. It's in a half serious way. I feel like that's not really a serious thing that people should be worried about. As the governor, you should be worried about the. I think there's much things to worry about other than this weird tweet about it was probably a joke about canceling a national holiday, and it, and even if she did do that, we could still all celebrate, these holidays if we want to. So
Right. And a lot of people look at it as a family holiday. Now, I
yeah,
look at it as a family because I just get sickened when I think about history. And it's more of like a family gathering day. Okay, who
yeah,
do we have here? Janet Friedlander is here.
yeah. So it's another.
Are you being an anti-Semite again, Dolores?
No, we're talking about election results right now. Let Denarde go through some of these results.
Oh, well, I hope he supported the right people. I hope he's not a bloody anti-Semite like you.
We just gone over some of the races, like in South Carolina, current Senator Darlene Graham and Congressman Ralph Northam has advanced to the runoff in South Carolina. In Minnesota, and in Minnesota, Mike Lindell then lost his gubernatorial primary election, and then on the Democratic side, people like Matt Littles, a progressive who won the primary, along with current Lieutenant Governor Penny Flanagan, who won the Senate.
Mm.
And
So, okay, Janet just disappeared. Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, but it's weird, it's frustrating because it's frustrating that people then look at small things and say, like, you know what, I'm not going to roll with that.
Right.
Like it's ridiculous.
Mhm.
And they use that tweet and to attack her relentlessly. And unfortunately, Francesca didn't really find a way to basically counteract it, and she kind of basically doubled down.
Mm.
And I don't think any other candidates have faced attack this vitriol as Francesca Hong. Both corporate Democrats, even Biden administration officials, as well as Republicans, basically tag team to dump on her.
Right. Oh, hello. Harsh is here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Denard a question about the Michigan race in
Yeah.
regards to Abdul Sayed winning or whatever.
Yeah, Abdul won the primary.
Right. I got a question. What are your thoughts on him being a pro-Ukraine supporter, even though he claims to be against Israel?
I think in a way he supports Israel, like in a way people kind of think around the world, like Ukraine is just fighting to protect themselves and their sovereignty from Russian aggression. I don't know much about his stances on Ukraine, so I can't really comment.
Right. No, I'm only saying that because supposedly he supports Ukraine, even though he's against it, even though he's like pro-Palestine. I didn't really know what to make of that. I don't know if he's just trying to play politics with the Dems or if he's like just all over the place. So
yeah, but I will say this: like I said, we can have our criticisms about candidates, about progressive candidates, but at the end of the day, I would say this: if they see, as long as they see Palestinians as human beings, I'm gonna give them a chance. So, we need to mess AIPAC's money up.
Mm-hmm.
And right now they're freaking out over how to deal with Abdul. And even Republicans can't even come up with a good attack against Abdul other than, oh, he's Muslim. Like, yeah, guys, we assume that.
yeah, I mean the whole Islamophobia thing's kind of like run its course. Like, this is 2026, not 2006.
Yeah.
I just don't think it plays anymore because a lot of people who notice the Islamophobia, they're just gonna be like, "Oy vey, we know where this coming from. It's coming from the tiny hats." Like, everyone assumes if you're like perpetuating Islamophobia, they just assume you're Jewish at this point. So it's kind of hard to even take it seriously.
Oh, it is.
Which
It makes no sense because you look at the small portion of society.
Right. Well, it's crazier for someone like me considering how I was brought up, but it's like, Yeah, the whole Islamophobia thing. Oh, Muslims are this, Muslims that. It's kind of dumb because it's like the people who perpetuate that crap are like the tiny hats who cause most of the chaos in this world anyway.
Exactly.
So it's like really hard to say Muslims are this, Muslims are that when it's like, no, there's another religion in the Middle East that causes most of like the chaos out there, and we're not. And yet, if you mention it, you're screwed. I mean, Drewski tried to do a skit making fun of making fun of them, and then all of a sudden he got a phone call saying shut it down immediately. So there you go.
There you go. It's just so ridiculous because they talk about the racism on campus. Well, they never bring up about the people that are from God, who has family in Gaza, family, their family in the West Bank or East Jerusalem, Lebanon, Syria. You never hear about these students. What about protecting these students?
Dolores, it was promised to them 3,000 years ago. That's why they're so upset. That's why they get angry.
What I don't understand about this Wisconsin race is that they basically in the primary they basically elected and basically chose a pro data center Democrat.
A what?
Yeah, basically they basically chose a in the gubernatorial primary in the Democratic for the Democrats in Wisconsin for governor. They basically chose a pro data center Democrat.
A pro death sentence Democrat?
A pro data center Democrat.
Oh, data center.
Oh yeah, well it is Wisconsin. What do you expect from those hillbillies?
Yeah, and they said like it's their, and I'm like they're like fine with data centers in their backyards.
And they're gonna have more fires.
Oh no, we need the data center so we can keep tabs on our favorite sports teams and where to go ice fishing when the internet goes down.
And it's really shocking considering the fact that many voters who have experienced being near data centers, they are profoundly against it.
Oh no, Denard, those are just like the city people in Milwaukee. The rest of us in Lake Manitowoc are okay with it.
Yeah, and it's just so crazy because it's just so crazy because because Oregon, the state of Oregon has the fifth most data centers in the entire country, and they basically taken over the entire state, and finally there was enough people who basically bullied the governor Tina Kotek, who was a pro corporate Democrat. They bullied the governor enough to where she basically announced that she was pausing some data centers, but at the time they finally pushed her to stop, the damage was already done.
Yeah, but I don't actually understand for the real is that how can these people sit there and say climate change is a problem and then support the construction of data centers?
It's all talk, no action. They can say the right things to vote to cool off voters while doing the exact opposite.
Right.
It's typical.
I just don't.
And the thing is, where they have to.
I just don't get that logic at all. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, how do you say one thing and do another when it's like that diametrically opposed?
Well, the one thing too I want to say is these data centers. A lot of times you will find because they want land, and whenever the people want land to build something, and people are living there, or there's forest or the stuff around, they will have someone start a forest fire, and they'll claim, "Oh my God, the fires! Oh my God, the fires!" Yeah, well, there was a reason for the fires because they wanted that land. They don't want to deal with eminent domain. So
Yeah.
that's what their intention is.
Yeah, that's why they keep having the fires in like the wealthier areas of the West Coast. They want to have the high-speed rail without worrying about eminent domain.
Yeah. And people are screwed.
Yeah.
You know, we live in such a selfish world.
We really do. Kind of while like I've stopped having sympathy for any of these idiots.
No.
If people are gonna be this stupid at some point, maybe they all deserve to die.
Well, the thing is, too, is you're going to have the data centers, and then you're going to be complaining you don't have enough water.
Yep.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's basically all the races. You know, like I said, there were some good. We got some good results, and we did get some. Got some bad results. But by the end of the day, the progressive movement, the socialist diaspora movement, it's basically returning, and it ain't stopping. It's spreading all across the United States.
Yeah, it is, and that's the prime of the issue. It's like because I've seen a lot of predictions, a lot of people predicting that eventually people will go to war over water, and it's kind of scary how true that's gonna start. You know, how close we are to that. Because the more data centers are built, the more of a water scarcity we're gonna have.
Yeah, people don't get it till the last minute, right?
Yeah.
We're stuck in the situation.
And by the time they figured out these data centers are becoming a problem, it'll be too late. But I think the reason why people are starting to see data centers as a problem is because it's affecting them personally. And that's the thing I point out about Americans is that they only start caring if it affects them personally.
Yes.
Yeah, but like you said, but that's too late.
Right, so it's too late because when we talk about what's going on in foreign policy, and you're feeling sick from what's going on, and people will say, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine." You know, their family's fine.
Yeah.
I gotta hop off. But so if y'all want to take over, that'd be cool.
Okay, we will take over. And yeah, thank you so much, Donati, for all this information.
No problem. Sorry, I have to cut it short.
Okay, have a good night.
That's an hour. Wow, that's actually pretty impressive.
I know, right? Because usually Donati's got a lot.
I got everything in it an hour.
Okay, so Evelina says the constant drone from AI data centers 24/7 must be unbearable.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Ian Omar, good win in Minnesota, says Wayne. And the IDF soldier protecting the settlers are complicit. Will hopefully be held accountable at some point. I would hope so. Wayne, you want to join us, Wayne?
Wayne Santalina.
Yeah, let me send a link over to Wayne.
That's not a noise. That's a noise. White Vikings.
Let me.
But yeah, I don't know what to make of any of these people. It's like, oh, they win the primary, but then they do the same stuff they hate. So it's like,
yeah, it's. You don't know what to say about stuff. It's like a complete nut house that we live in.
I would say so.
And you talk about the gas prices. And then again, some people will say, oh, where I live, the prices are fine. I'm doing fine, and blah, blah, blah. Well, can you think about the people that are struggling, to pay gas?
Them are just lying to themselves too.
Right.
A lot of them will say everything's fine, everything's great, and then when they look in the mirror, look at their bank accounts, they're like, maybe on second thought, this isn't so well.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Yeah, with the food prices and all. And, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I mean, if you don't notice, but I guess because they love Trump, these people that love Trump,
Yeah.
they're not going to complain about anything.
The 1/4 of the country that's still up. The rest of us have learned that Trump's retarded.
The stuff that people say.
The rest of us know that Trump's been retarded. And so even Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes have learned that Trump's retarded. But everyone else, only the dumbass Republicans are like, oh yeah, we like Trump. I mean, Tucker Carlson's doing videos saying, what's MAGA? MAGA's dead. MAGA's just whatever Donald Trump says. It's that's pretty damning.
Oh, it is.
That's really damning.
Okay, wait, I sent you a link. Okay,
About people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and what is it? And Alex Jones and Megyn Kelly giving Trump the middle fingers because they realized, oh crap, the energy's gone.
Yeah.
That should tell you everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm also hooking us up with X so that we want to find something to talk about, to give our opinions on. Okay. Okay, I guess Wayne's not here. I thought he was still here. Well, he said that okay, that was 9:49. Oh, okay, he must
an hour ago.
Yeah. Yeah, almost an hour ago. Yeah, he's got a whole day ahead of him. He's at a different time zone than we are. Australia.
It's annoying.
Yeah, Denord. Denord's got something to do.
Naughty.
He's got something to do.
Yeah, poor Denard. He still believes in electoral politics.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but I don't know how you believe in that shit after seeing what we've seen, but whatever.
Yeah, the U.S. military operations killed 153 civilians in 2025. Well, we knew they killed a lot of civilians in 2025, so now it's just coming out. The Pentagon report to Congress.
Only 153? I'm kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, I'm going to say
crazy to kill more.
Yeah, because I'm like, where are they talking about the 153? Because, if I look at Gaza and alone for 2025. Has a Pentagon report submitted to Congress documented the deaths of 153 civilians and the injury of 243 others in a 2025 U.S. military operations. U.S. military operations, a sharp increase from the 2 deaths and 2 injuries recorded in 2024. All of the reported casualties resulted from 3 U.S. airstrikes in Yemen in April 2025, while the U.S. Central Command is still assessing 15 additional incidents involving reported civilian harm as of February 2026. However, the figures exclude civilians killed or wounded in U.S. attacks on Iran, as well as operations in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific, which raises questions about the accuracy and criteria of the report. Exactly. They're trying to make it appear that the numbers are lower. They don't give a shit about human life. Okay. Speaking to Al Mayadeen, Professor Mohammed Marandi stated, Trump is strangling the global economy in an attempt to strangle Iran's economy. Marandi argued that this U.S. strategy is unlikely to succeed, pointing to the failure of previous economic pressure campaigns. The blockade Trump imposed on Iran in the past failed, and there is no reason to believe it will succeed this time around, Marandi asserted. Yeah, Trump is just dragging this out. Everybody knows. The U.S. lost. Trump knows it. He just can't admit it. He's trying to figure out a way around it, as everything else with Trump. He can't admit that he lost. Okay. Can never admit he lost. Oh, I can't even stand listening to him, Trump. Oh, this is about that whole thing. I think that's the... Oh, U.S. President Trump confirmed that he was secretly moved between aircraft as he departed a NATO summit in Turkey last month because of a potential security threat. I got by the Secret Service. Oh, I go by the Secret Service in the military. They wanted me to go in a different flight, different plane, Trump told reporters. I just have to do what they say. The admission follows reports that Trump appeared to board Air Force One on July 8th in front of television cameras before being transferred to another military aircraft using a catering truck. And this is just stupid, the whole thing. And I say it's stupid is because it just doesn't make sense. Then why wouldn't they have moved everybody else to a different plane? They kept everybody else in Air Force One. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Caroline Leavitt, and the press, and all these people, they left them on Air Force One because there was a potential that it could be bombed. It just makes no sense because they got the word from Israel. So if this was like a real threat, you would think they would take everybody into a different plane and make sure they're secure. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. What do you say, Harsh? Okay. He must be doing something. It makes no sense. Israeli occupation forces and settlers escalate attacks across the occupied West Bank, carrying out raids openly. Opening live fire, storming homes, blocking roads, and displacing families as confrontations intensify. Yeah, because Israel's, going in there. The soldiers and the illegal thugs, settlers going in there, they're raiding people's homes. And all around the world, if this was being done to anybody, you would be defending your home. You'd be defending the place you live, your town. You wouldn't be telling some force that's coming in, oh, just take everything. I don't see anybody doing that. And you're wondering where the world is. Where is the world to stop this? This is all illegal. It's illegal under international law. I mean, there needs to be some kind of force put together to stop this. Speaking to Al Mayadeen, member of Ansar Allah's political bureau, Mohammed al-Bukhati said that the Yemeni forces will target Saudi oil fields, power infrastructure, water desalination plants, and airports should Saudi Arabia launch a full-scale attack against Yemen. Al-Bukhati said the movement has drawn on 12 years of experience confronting Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Britain. He confirmed the Yemeni armed forces are currently limiting their strikes to weapon depots, Saudi Arabia buildups, and other military infrastructures with targets carefully selected. Al-Bukhati affirmed that Saudi Arabia is concealing its losses, particularly its death toll, and called on Yemeni stationed at Saudi military camps to withdraw and protect their lives, announcing that rewards would be offered to those who do so. He further stressed Ansar Allah's full readiness to fight on 3 fronts simultaneously, with the first being against Israel, the United States, and Britain, the second being against Saudi Arabia, and the third on the domestic front. Yet he asserted that the movement would prefer a war against Israel and the United States 1,000 times over to a war against fellow Yemenis. His family, yes, read this story before I saw it. His family mourned his loss, but he was still alive. Palestinian detainee Hamada al-Banna recounts the devastating moment when Israel killed his brother while seeking flour in Gaza. Al-Banna was severely injured, fell into a 2-month coma, and later spent months detained in Israeli prisons. When he finally returned home after nearly a year, his father did not recognize him. His family had already held a 3-day mourning period for him. His mother, Widad, shares the pain of a family shattered by Israeli genocide, loss, displacement, and detention. Despite all the suffering, Hamada's message to families of detainees is to never lose hope. And the world, and we're always saying, where is the world? I mean, this is horrific what's going on, and there's no action. There's no action to stop Israel. I mean, this is Palestine, Gaza, Palestine, and Israel has to get out of there. The UN, the ICJ had stated that. Gaza is Palestinian, and Israel has to get out. They have to get out of East Jerusalem, and they have to get out of the West Bank. Here's another report. A senior Iranian political security source tells Al Mayadeen that the Strait of Hormuz remains closed and under Tehran's management, rejecting Trump's claim that the U.S. Navy controls the strategic waterway. Well, of course, Trump, he has a history of saying a bunch of baloney. Israeli occupation forces detained Palestinian journalist Mohammed Awad during a dawn raid near Ramallah, bringing the number of Palestinian journalists currently held by Israel to 40, according to the Palestinian Prisoner Society. So they have all these hostages. You don't hear the world outcry about releasing the hostages. Why? Why are we hearing the importance of releasing the hostages? Hamas released all the hostages. There's 0 hostages. And Israel can't do the same. I mean, this is terrible. They keep taking hostages, and the world isn't screaming out. You don't see it all over the media. We don't see it all over the media what's happening all the time in Gaza and the West Bank. And here the IRGC advised that Iran learned how to confront U.S. in latest war. It says Iran has learned how to confront the United States through 5 months of war. While the conflict exposed the U.S. military as weaker than previously believed, the IRGC advisor Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Naqvi told PBS. And here, from Persian poetry and gardens to carpets, mawaz, and contemporary art, flowers have long held a special place in Iranian culture. But beyond their beauty, flowers carry deeper meaning. The rose speaks of love, the tulip of martyrdom, and the flower itself becomes a reflection of divine beauty. And it says here, Al-Mayadeen's English envoy to Tehran, Karim Shara, explores the philosophy, history, and symbolism behind the flowers in Iranian culture, speaking with Dr. Majid Makish, professor of philosophy at Imam Khomeini University. And then here, Morocco has tightened security near the Ceuta border after detecting online calls for another mass crossing attempts on August 15th, weeks after a record influx into the Spanish enclave left dozens dead. A massive oil spill is creeping onward toward Oman's shores as monsoon winds hamper the response. With marine life at risk, how far could the disaster spread? Oman oil spill reaches mainland as monsoon winds delay salvage efforts. And here, a senior Iranian political security source told Al-Mayadeen that the Strait of Hormuz remains closed and under Iranian monitoring and control, stressing that Tehran has made no change whatsoever to its policy. The source warned vessels against violating Iranian procedures, saying ships currently faces significant safety and technical risks. The source also accused U.S. President Donald Trump of circulating false reports in an attempt to influence market prices, reaffirming that Iran's policy toward the Strait of Hormuz remains unchanged. Yeah, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. Yeah, okay, I read that, what Evelina says. Evelina says, besides, it wasn't exactly done in a clandestine manner. People saw him. Yeah, he has no problems with data centers. A senior Iranian political security source to Al-Mayadeen, the Strait of Hormuz has been reopened, and Iran has made no change whatsoever to its policy, not even a minor adjustment. We warn any vessel that fails to comply with the Iranian procedures and regulations currently in force in the Strait of Hormuz. Large vessels are unable to transit the strait given the risks currently present. If any vessel violates the regulations by failing to comply with the Iranian procedure, it could encounter technical difficulties or face safety-related risks. Trump is trying to influence market prices, which is why he continues to release and circulate false reports on a daily basis. We reaffirm once again and unequivocally that the Strait of Hormuz remains under Iranian monitoring and control. Exactly. And they've said that over and over and over again. But, Trump, we know how he is. Okay, we talked about that. U.S. grants are flowing to right-wing organizations across Britain and Europe as part of a broader push to export mega style politics beyond American borders. I don't think Europe's going to take that. I think they've had enough. Then Israeli War Minister Israel Katz says occupation forces are here to stay in the so-called security zone in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza, openly ruling out withdrawal and ordering preparations for a long-term military presence. And the world's not stopping this. This is what's annoying. Where is the world? Israeli violations in Lebanon continue. Al Mayadeen's correspondent reports on IOF carrying out explosions and drone strikes across southern Lebanon. They continue. Every single day they continue. And they're not stopped. This year, Palestinian residents committees call on solidarity with Qusra. As Israeli settlers escalate their attacks on the village of Qusra in the West Bank, unity becomes critical for Palestinians facing Israeli settler violence. They're a bunch of thugs, and Israel, the government, the Knesset, it's allowing it. They're allowing this abuse. And we know you've got some organizations around the world that are supporting the thugs that are committing the violence. I mean, this is shameful. And we say all the time, where is the UN to stop this? Nobody would want this in their neighborhood. And this is just pure evil to do this to people. You decide you want land that other people are presently living on. And you just think it's like this entitlement that you have this right to move people all around because you decide you want it. This is just so evil. There's no value to human life. Nobody would want this happening to them. Then Hamas stresses that the Israeli occupation closure of the Ibrahimi Mosque is part of the extremist government's systematic campaign against the Palestinian people, aimed at accelerating the annexation and Judaization of holy sites. Well, where is everybody in the world to stop this? And then if you have a resistance group tries to do something, you'll label them with the T word when what they're doing is resisting what's happening in their area, just as you would do. Most people would. I know here in the U.S., you have people with their guns. They'll be protecting their homes. They'll be protecting their neighborhoods. That have neighborhood watches. They'd be all out if they were in the same position as the Palestinians are in. You know, they wouldn't stand for it. So where is the world? Where is the UN to stop this? I mean, we want action. I mean, people are sick and tired of all this condemnation. I mean, action is needed as soon as possible to stop all this. Oh, please. Trump's secret catering truck transfer in Turkey over a reported Iranian threat is raising fresh doubts over Washington's claim of victory in the war on Iran. Oh, everybody knows the U.S. didn't win. Okay, and speaking to Al Mayadeen, on Tuesday, former CIA officer Ray McGovern says he believes the intelligence provided to the U.S. president has come from Mossad rather than the U.S. intelligence community. McGovern described U.S. President Trump as mercurial and unpredictable, arguing that he is unable to focus on substantive issues and is being advised by Zionist figures, including Mossad and U.S. officials such as Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He also recalled being told as a 9-year-old in 1948 that Israel would be established as a country for people without a country, and a place where, he said, there were no people. McGovern said that narrative was a bold-faced lie, adding that this is the first time in his lifetime since 1948 that a powerful country appears to believe it is important for Palestinians to regain their rights. Okay, let me see that.
Well, it's a very interesting question. I would simply say that the intelligence given to our president has come from Mossad, not from the intelligence community in the United States. Our president himself is not only very mercurial, unpredictable, he's not well. And all one must do is to listen to him talk about the reflecting pool in front of the Washington Monument for about 20 minutes of a press conference to realize that he cannot focus on real things and is advised by Zionists, not only Mossad, but equivalent agents like Marco Rubio and others to advise the president. So with respect to Iran, my perspective is that the key word is managing. You used the word before. It's managing this conflict. That's the important thing. It's important not to give the Israelis, for example, any excuse to mount a false flag attack by sinking one of the U.S. Navy ships. You have to manage it gradually. The other thing is that, yes, you entertain different views. The Supreme Leader, the new Supreme Leader, said about the 14 points, if I remember correctly, I don't agree with this approach, but let's try it. Well, that's pretty out and open. They tried it and they found out that you can't make a deal with the make a deal person named our president. So the deal turned out to be just an apparent way to get the Strait of Hormuz open. And Iran, as I can see, is no dope. They realize that if you violate pretty much willy-nilly all of the 14 points, well, this is somebody not to rely on or trust. Now, the last thing I'll say is that I, as an American, I was 9 years old in 1948 when I was told that Israel is going to have a country with no people in it. There will be a country for people without a country, and it will be implanted in a place where there were no people. Well, that was a bald-faced lie. So we go back to 1948. And my point is simply that, look, this is the first time in my lifetime, since 1948, where a very powerful country thinks it's really important for people in Palestine to get their rights back. And that's what it's come to. So it's a eclectic, it's a very, very important threshold kind of situation. And if you go back to particulars, with the United States running out of necessary ammunition, and with the midterm elections coming up and the world economy disintegrating, it doesn't seem like Trump is correct when he says Iran has no cards. It has cards, and now maybe he'll realize that. I just hope so, but the man is not well. I can't predict what he will do.
I don't think we can predict what he would do. Whoa. A worsening El Nino drought is lowering water levels in the Panama Canal's Gatun Lake, while the closure of the Strait of Hormuz amid the U.S. war on Iran has redirected Asian oil demand toward the U.S. Gulf Coast. Panama Canal fees hit record high following El Nino war on Iran. So the Panama Canal, it says its fees hit record high. Okay. And let me see what else is going on. Let's see what's going on. Press TV a bit. Sayed Abbas Agashi says to France, countries like France should stop lecturing the world about human rights and international law. The hypocrisy is blatant and embarrassing. Your backing of Israel's genocide in Gaza and aggression against Iran has destroyed whatever moral high ground you imagined you had. That's true. And here, reports of suicide attempts deepen concerns over the USS Abraham Lincoln's prolonged deployment. Yes, I had seen that on the news as well. And the military newspaper, military.com, they have reports about it as well. Let me see what they say here. Reports that sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln attempted to jump overboard have intensified concerns over the mental health and living conditions of the carrier's roughly 5,000 sailors and Marines, as its deployment has stretched into a 9 9 months amid the U.S.'s ongoing violations target Iran. On Tuesday, the Navy Times and Stars and Stripes reported multiple thwarted incidents involving sailors attempting to jump from the carrier. The crew has spent 250 consecutive days without making land, according to the reports, described as a record for a U.S. aircraft carrier in modern times. About 200 relatives of Lincoln personnel attended a town hall meeting with Navy officials in San Diego last Thursday, where concerns over the prolonged deployment and sailors' well-being were raised directly with acting Navy Secretary Hung Chau and others officials. One spouse said her husband had texted her that day saying he hopes he doesn't wake up tomorrow. Another woman told Chau that the Navy had broken trust between us and the leadership, Stars and Stripes reported. The Navy Times quoted Annabelle Loma as saying her husband had attempted to jump overboard after his deployment was repeatedly extended. He's scared. He thinks he'll get a dishonorable discharge, and just because he was burnt out, his 13-year career is ruined just like that, she said. The publication also quoted another sailor's wife who said her husband had prevented a fellow crew member from jumping by grabbing the person and bringing him back onto the deck. Lawmakers criticized conditions. Democratic Congressman Mike Levin of California described conditions aboard the carrier as moldy showers, broken toilets, laundry down for weeks, long stretches with no hot water, a meal that came down to half a cup of rice and 2 tortillas, no soap, deodorant, or toothpaste. Congressman Jason Crow, a former Army Ranger, said the strain on personnel and their families was building week by week. The Lincoln left San Diego on November 21st and was originally intended for the Pacific before being redirected to West Asia after the United States and the Israeli regime began their latest bout of wholesome, unprovoked aggression against Iran. Its deployment, initially scheduled to end in May, has been extended. Hegseth in denial. Earlier complaints about food, water, mold, and broken laundry facilities were dismissed by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth as more fake news. Levin responded, "The least their country owes them, the personnel, is hot water, a working toilet, and a real meal. Hegseth cannot even manage that, and he has the nerve to look their families in the eye and call them liars." The report came amid a separate account of a deadly confrontation aboard the Abraham Lincoln in which 7 sailors were reportedly killed and several others wounded. This is terrible. This is how the U.S. under this command treats its military personnel. It's terrible. Here, Colombia is no longer in charge of its own foreign policy. David Hundayan underscores that Colombia is a U.S. vassal state, describing Washington's regional policy as open colonialism. Definitely. Mhm. And this is what Marco Rubio wants to do all throughout Latin America. We see he's the one that controls Venezuela. Strait of Hormuz Authority nixes U.S. claims, says waterways remain blocked until Iran's conditions are met. Okay, from power to panic, how fear of Iranian missiles forced Trump to escape Turkey in a catering cart. Yeah, we went over that already. Iran exposes U.S. military as weaker than perceived. That was from the IRGC commander. And it was 8 hours ago, says the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked and will not be reopened until Iran's conditions are accepted. Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority says that the claims and repeated posts by U.S. officials that the Strait of Hormuz is no longer blocked does not change the reality. Yep, Iran has never violated international law or sought regional unrest, says President Pezeshkian. This was it says conversation. Iran's new military appointments signal offensive posture towards the U.S. and Israel. This is by Hossein Kanani Mokadan, political analyst and former IRGC commander. Okay, and says here, newly appointed Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until all conditions laid out by the Islamic Republic are met. And the pressure has been the mother of invention. Says academic and investigative journalist at Tracking Power says Iran's missile and drone program were born from pressure, while pointing to America's documented record of war, destruction, and genocide. Yes, and that's where they had to prepare themselves. Okay. Let me see what Telizor has to say. Telizor English. Okay, so the solar eclipse seen across Europe, that was 7 hours ago. They posted that. And we stand with Colombia. Bogota's Nemesio Camacho El Campín Stadium has been transformed into a relief collection center to support families and communities affected by August 10th earthquake. The site is receiving essential supplies as solidarity efforts continue across the country to assist those impacted by the disaster. The number of Palestinian journalists held by Israel has risen to 40, following the detention of photojournalist Mohammed Awad in the occupied West Bank. Palestinian rights group says 19 are being held under administrative detention without formal charges or trial. I mean, they're hostages. Cuba, ALBA movements reaffirmed its solidarity with Cuba and called for an end to the decades-long U.S. blockade during its Fourth Continental Assembly in Havana. The gathering brought together 190 delegates from more than 25 countries, with participating organizations also delivering essential supplies to the island. And Colombian President Abelardo de la Espriella provided an update on the situation in the country. He stated that as of now, there have been 265 fatalities. That's 265 fatalities following the earthquake that struck the nation on August 10th. Here, the government and representatives of the 2015 National Assembly concluded their first round of talks with initial agreements on the dialogue process. Jorge Rodriguez said technical working groups will address the June 24th earthquake, emergency, democratic institutions, the justice system, and electoral process, and that's Venezuela. And Marco Rubio took over Venezuela. Venezuela basically is hostage of the U.S. Colombia will receive international search and rescue teams from Ecuador, El Salvador, Israel, and the United States following the 7.4 magnitude earthquake. Officials said the teams were selected based on established rescue protocols and their ability to operate autonomously with their own personnel and equipment. The decision does not restrict humanitarian aid or donations from other countries. Since President Abelardo de la Espriella declared an economic emergency following the 7.4 magnitude earthquake, as the death toll surpasses 240, the measure seeks to accelerate reconstruction and mobilize resources for affected communities, including through the newly created Milagro Fund. Solidarity continues to cross borders as humanitarian aid from El Salvador arrives in Colombia to support communities affected by the August 10 earthquakes. The assistance joins ongoing international efforts to provide relief to families facing the aftermath of the disaster. Earthquake survivors in Choco and Pereira are demanding a stronger government response as communities struggle with damaged homes, shortages of essential services, and insufficient assistance. In Berea, social organizations have established a humanitarian camp and community kitchen to support affected communities as official shelters face growing demand. It says here, Cuba rejected allegations linking state officials to migrant smuggling networks in Mexico and Central America, calling the claims a slanderous fabrication. Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez denied any government involvement and said Havana had previously warned U.S. authorities about alleged trafficking networks operating from southern Florida. And in Mexico, former Guerrero Governor Angel Aguero Rivera is accused of ordering the destruction of key video evidence related to the 2014 disappearance of the 43 Ayazopa students. Prosecutors allege the recordings could have provided information about police coordination and the involvement of state agents. Aguero's defense denies allegations and disputes the prosecution's timeline. An acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, presided over the signing of an agreement between Corpoelec and IMPSA to strengthen Venezuela's national electric system. Rodriguez said the June 24th earthquakes damaged power infrastructure and that work is underway to restore transmission lines and reinforce the electrical grid. It says the United Nations has joined emergency response efforts following the 7.4 magnitude earthquake, which has affected more than 49,000 people across Colombia. UNICEF is providing essential water, sanitation, and hygiene supplies for 25,000 people in Choco and Buenaventura as humanitarian assessments and relief operations continue. Argentina, a federal court ordered the preventative seizure of assets belonging to former President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner and her children, Maximo and Florencia Kirchner, in connection with the Inviolidad case. The measure seeks to secure assets that could eventually cover an estimated US $456 million in damages claimed by the state, but does not currently authorize their forfeiture or auction. In Puerto Rico, more than 500,000 people are facing severe water rationing across Puerto Rico, with some communities going up to 48 hours without running water. What is driving the crisis, and why could conditions worsen in the coming weeks? We take a closer look at the factors behind Puerto Rico's growing water emergency and its impact on communities across the island. It has here Spain. A total eclipse transformed the skies over parts of Spain, briefly plunging communities into darkness as the moon completely obscured the sky. The rare celestial event produced the striking diamond ring effect and revealed the sun's corona before daylight. Corona before daylight gradually returned, drawing a sky watchers across the country to witness the spectacle. Okay. Oh, it's just been- And in Argentina, university students, professors, and researchers took to the streets of Buenos Aires to protest President Javier Milei's budget cuts and the government's failure to implement the university funding law. Demonstrators warned that continued austerity measures are undermining public universities and scientific research, demanding adequate funding to protect Argentina's public education and research system. Yeah, that's neoliberalism. That's what it does. Austerity for everybody else and money to the wealthy. And it says Colombia, Mexico is sending humanitarian aid assistance to Colombia aboard Mexican Air Force aircraft as relief efforts continued following the August 10th earthquake. President Claudia Sheinbaum said the aid, including drinking water and medical supplies, while Mexican Army personnel are also supporting emergency operations following a request from the Colombian government. Sheinbaum reaffirmed Mexico's solidarity with the Colombian people as relief and recovery efforts continue. Mm, okay. And the Congo still, Ebola cases are rising rapidly in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with thousands of infections and more than 2,000 deaths reported as health teams work to contain the outbreak. But what is driving its rapid spread, and why has containing the virus been so difficult? We break down what's behind the outbreak and the challenges they face. And let me just bring this up here. It seems like it's been going on for so long, and like, where is the world's response? The Cali Volunteer Fire Department thanks the citizens for their help to those affected by the 7.4 magnitude earthquake. Firefighters urge people to stay away from collapsed buildings because there are sufficient specialized personnel to carry out rescue operations without causing other further trauma. Yep, there's in France. They got to see the solar eclipse. It has Guatemala. Organizations showing solidarity with Cuba pay tribute to the 100th anniversary of Commander Fidel Castro and the Cuban Medical Brigade, which is withdrawing after 28 years of service. Yeah, because the U.S. is pushing that. Brazil's landless rural workers movement is working to expand its role in electoral politics by fielding candidates for the state and national assemblies in the October 4th elections. And there's a picture. I mean, it's just horrible. Colombian Legal Medicine Institute confirms 202 deaths from the earthquake. But that was stated at, when was this, 9 hours ago? Horrible. Let me see, I think I saw something before. Oh, it's terrible because it's here an hour ago. The Colombian president said he stated that as of now there have been 265 fatalities following the earthquake. It's horrific. Okay, let me see. Evelina's comments here. Let me see. Oh, but she said, yeah, because I was talking about with Trump. It wasn't done in a clandestine manner. People saw him. Yeah, people saw him. Evidently a psych operation to persuade Americans he is a target for another assassination attempt. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me, Evelina. It doesn't make sense. More political theater is all it is. Yeah, that's what it is. I agree. Gavir or Smotrich telling Abbas to get lost. Not permitted inside the West Bank. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think it was Smotrich. Yeah, it's pathetic. Trying to, tell Netanyahu not to let him be back in there. And meanwhile, Abbas has been the one that has been following orders from Israel, doing what they wanted, infuriating the Palestinians because he wasn't there for the people. Yeah, just Smotrich wants everybody out. And as we say all the time, where is the world? Where is the world when it comes to Israel to hold Israel accountable? On that note, I'm going to close the show out. I want to thank you for being here, Evelina, and thank everybody who's watching. Evelina was here, and Wayne commented, and thank you for all the people that are watching the show and didn't comment. Thank you for being here, and I should be having a show tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we continue to pray for the world, for peace in the world, and for humanity, for some empathy. It's just so horrific when you see all the things happening in the world and, people turning their eye to it and not caring at all. So I'll see you Thursday night. Pray for peace around the world. Meditate for peace. Send healing energy out to the world. Do what you can. Continue protesting, writing your elected officials. Raising awareness. I know on social media people are raising awareness. People do whatever you can do. It's just so important. Yes, good night, Evelina. I'll see you tomorrow, Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night, everybody. Free Palestine. Save Palestine, save humanity. And I think if we could have peace in Palestine, that could spread around the world. This has been going on in Palestine for so long. Thank you and good night.